and I cannot stress this enough, blam! So at this point it's pretty clear that the whole WSE trilogy's MO is just a modded G1 redo. I mean, you get your standard collection of characters to represent the toy line as a whole. Optimus, Megatron, Starscream. It's pretty much the catch you get at this point, innit? But then you get characters who you never expect to show up. Who would have guessed, in a toy line as straightforward and G1-centric as Siege or Earthrise, you get major outliers like Skylynx, friggin' Scorponok over there, or even Snapdragon and Apeface. And here I am thinking a new Spinster would be as surprising as it got. But in the midst of the noticeably bigger deluxes and the shrunk down leader figures, we apparently need to shrink down some deluxes for the sake of scale accuracy. It all basically started with Earthrise Cliffjumper and everyone overreacted to how diddy he is. But let's be honest here, scale has never mattered in Transformers. The same way they had this guy also had Hoist, who's taller than most deluxes despite both of their vehicle modes being roughly the same size in real life. At least I think. But I'm not here to nitpick realistic scaling. I mean, do I look like the lazy eyebrow to you? But since we're on the subject of mini-bots, I'm here to talk about the littlest tanker boy that could. Yes indeed, here we go with Kingdom Deluxe Class Warpath. Now full transparency here, this figure isn't mine. This actually belongs to my little brother who gave me full permission to do this review because, well, he likes my videos. And Warpath himself is a pretty bankable Autobot, right? Like he is in the A-tier all-star lineup, but he's still a standout with his not Autobody tank mode and his Tourette Syndrome exclamations. But it's still a little strange that his latest iteration comes to us in Kingdom, a toy line near dedicated to recapturing the nostalgia of a Beast Wars. But he's here now, so let's give the old Kabooma a squint. So the tank mode is based on a General Motors M55 1A1 Sheridan ARAAV tank. Try saying that 3 times fast. Though instead of the real world meat slap for the turret, it goes for the Sumbo animation / toy design rounded look, which I would be happy to show you if I had him, but my entire G1 collection basically extends to just Ultra Magnus and Thundercracker. But as actual tank modes go, this is pretty much what you expect. It's a blocky brick red piece of military might, though much of your opinion on it will definitely hinge on your tolerance for bad 80s animation. And admittedly, I'm not a big fan of the stark white paint they use for the treads. It just kinda makes the whole thing look a bit cheap, but it's still a solid, decent looking tank with a swiveling turret and a tilting cannon. And I guess the only thing I could do now is just compare him to the only other Warpath I got. There's of course being the 2010 Generations figure in his Halo Scorpion Halloween costume. It's gonna come down to personal taste, but I definitely much prefer the 2010 style, because it's still recognizable as Warpath while updating him in a natural way to make him stand out in your collection. It also has the advantage of the onomatopoeia on the side, as well as just being more varied in the color scheme. But at the very least, neither of them are just a Legends Megatron repaint with a different head. And now we're gonna go from this to this. So the transformation's pretty clever, I guess, in that it's really smart how the entire front mass of the tank formed the legs in just a few swivels and panels. But I gotta tell you, it sure as hell isn't fun, because there's a bunch of parts clashing and it's never clear which way things are supposed to go. I mean, I don't mind a more involved transformation, but no, the cost of being counterintuitive. Also, parts moving from the front of the tank, so yeah, minus 10 points. So let's just talk about the robot mode then. And as G1 style Warpaths go, this is pretty on the money. It has all the traditional visual trademarks for the guy, like the dot mutton treads and the singular cannon nipple. This could actually be used as a blast effect point, because why not have Warpath use a chest blaster? It wouldn't exactly be out of character for him. It's also way more effective than the leftovers of his parts forming surgery. Hasbro, what's with your modern mini-bots and giving them daft shields made of a chunk of their alt mode? I mean, at least with Cliffjumper, you could just leave the shield on his back if you want to give him a more hunched look. Warpath's one can't even go anywhere without looking incredibly dumb. And if you want to get logistical, it doesn't even really work as a shield. I mean, it is just way too small to protect anything substantial, despite what that blast point would tell you. I think he only has this as a reference to that one episode where he and Hoist go back in time and meet King Arthur. I actually had to say that. What is my life? I much prefer having it on his forearm where it's like this makeshift boxing glove. Hey, at least it actually looks useful. But getting back to the thing in this video that actually matters. So clearly this guy is more influenced from the animation model than the original toy. As such, he's basically stuck with these half treads on his forearms and there isn't a lot to break up the blockade of red. He comes off a bit monochromatic with only the slightest hints of white to break up the illusion that he's a brick wall. He's basically living proof that cartoon accuracy shouldn't always be a priority. But as for posing, he's certainly a sharp customer. He has the modern standard bull-jointed head and universal shoulder joints, though the elbows can only bend so far and the wrist swivels are crazy tight. Waist rotation ain't much better, but the hips are crazy with more back and forth than the Twitter argument. And with all that said, I'm not really a fan of how their ankles click into place whenever you straighten them out. There's basically some molding inside that keeps on scraping against the plastic of the foot, and it really sounds unsettling, like you're breaking his foot every single time you straighten him out. It also looks super weird with how the front part tilts, but the heel doesn't. So he's definitely not bad for posing, he just feels a bit ropey in spots. And all that's left now is yet another direct comparison with the last time we had a deluxe incarnation of the tanker fella. Unfortunately, because of my bias, I am gonna have to give the point to this one again. This was just such an upgrade for the guy and still holds up today as a modern take on Warpath. Like, he's still blocky and has all the visual traits that makes this design iconic, but he gave him a massive makeover with more mechanical details and paint apps so that he's not just a red wedge machine. And the transformation is way more fun with some clever tricks for the torso and the legs. And of course, the simple but brilliant head reveal that could rival reveal the shield lug nut. You know, if I had one. And while his posability is a bit limited by today's standards, he's still a lot more fun to play with thanks to his boxy demeanor. Now, just to be clear, I don't dislike Kingdom Warpath. I'm happy the guy has a decent action figure for people who missed out on the 2010 one, and he still looks good with the other mini boss in your collection, so there's that. But I feel like he got the short end of the stick when it comes to the fun factor. At the end of the day, you want to have fun with your toy robots. But for me, I just can't bring myself to enjoy this guy. But if nothing else, he still makes my little brother happy, so he still has a place in this house. Bam pow zowie, Mr. Warpath. So big thanks again to my little brother who provided Warpath for the video. But until next time, because there always will be one, this is Callum Lewis, the Media Hood, signing off.